Under the oppressive heat of a midsummer noon in 2025, the city of Lisbon sweltered as if trapped in an invisible furnace. The cobblestone streets radiated warmth, the pastel-colored buildings shimmered in the blinding sunlight, and the clamor of tram bells and honking cars wove a chaotic urban symphony. Tucked away in a narrow alley off Rua Augusta, where the crowd thinned, stood a modest cafe shaded by an ancient olive tree. The cafe had no name, only a weathered wooden sign scrawled with the words, "Coffee, iced lemonade." An old ceiling. Fan inside whirred feebly, stirring the humid air, but doing little to ease the sweat glistening on the patrons' faces. Lucas and Clara sat across from each other at a small, rickety table perched on faded wicker chairs. Both 27, their youthful faces were etched with exhaustion after a morning spent scouring the city for a home. Lucas, with his tousled brown hair and piercing green eyes, fanned Clara with a torn piece of cardboard from a nearby crate. His strong hands trembled slightly, whether from fatigue or an unspoken unease, he wasn't sure. Clara, her auburn hair tied back in a loose bun, her hazel eyes sharp yet warm, offered him a faint smile. It was a smile that cut through the stifling heat, a fleeting moment of calm amidst their shared tension. "You holding up okay?" Clara asked, her voice soft but tinged with concern. She reached into her bag, pulling out a damp cloth to dab. At the beads of sweat on Lucas's forehead, Lucas shook his head, forcing a grin. "I'm fine. It's just this blasted heat. What about you? Maybe you should stay back tomorrow. Rest. I can check out places alone and FaceTime you if I find something promising." Clara laughed, her voice like the chime of a distant bell. "I'm tougher than I look, Lucas. Besides, we only get weekends to do this. If I let you go alone, you'll pick some drafty attic just because it's cheap, and I'll be stuck complaining for the rest of our lives." Lucas's laugh echoed through the cafe, warm and hearty, momentarily drowning out the hum of the fan. He reached across the table, taking Clara's delicate hand in his, giving it a gentle squeeze. "All right, you win. We'll go together. But promise me, if you're knackered, you'll say so. No playing the hero." They fell silent, their eyes locked in a moment of quiet devotion. Lucas and Clara had been together for 7 years, since their university days in Coimbra. Lucas could still picture the first time he saw her, standing in a lecture hall, her hair catching the sunlight as she debated passionately about quantum mechanics with a group of classmates. Her fierce intelligence and radiant smile had captivated him instantly. It took months of persistence, awkward conversations, small gestures, and a fair share of rejections before Clara warmed to him. By their 3rd year, working late nights on a group project, she finally saw the depth of his sincerity. They'd been inseparable ever since. 7 years wasn't a short time. They'd weathered lean student days, scraping by on meager allowances, sharing cheap meals and stolen moments. Lucas always went out of his way for Clara, whether it was a single rose from a street vendor or a handwritten note tucked into her. Books. To Clara, those gestures were more than tokens. They were proof of a love that anchored her through sleepless nights and endless deadlines. Lucas was a rock, the one she trusted with her future. Now, with stable jobs, Lucas as a software engineer for a tech startup, Clara as a financial analyst, they were ready to take the next step, marriage. But first, they needed a home to call their own. That's why they sat here, wilting under the summer sun, weary but hopeful. The cafe's owner, an older woman with sharp eyes and a cryptic smile, broke the silence from behind the counter. "Looking for a place to live, are you?" Lucas started, turning to face her. "Yes, that's right. We're getting married soon and need somewhere to settle. It's tough, though nice places are too expensive, and the affordable ones are." "Well, not great." The woman's smile widened, her gaze unsettlingly knowing. No need to fret. I know of a place. A friend of mine inherited an old townhouse. 3 stories, barely a decade old. The previous owners, left suddenly. It's a steal, just a short tram ride from the city center. Interested? Lucas and Clara exchanged a glance, their eyes sparking with cautious hope. Really? Lucas asked, his voice rising with excitement. That sounds perfect. We don't mind a bit of a commute, if the place is good. The woman nodded, scribbling. An address and phone number on a napkin. Here, go see it tomorrow. I'll let my friend know you're coming. Clara took the napkin, her fingers brushing against the rough paper. A chill ran through her, unexplainable in the oppressive heat. The woman's tone, though kind, carried an edge that set her nerves on edge. She dismissed it as exhaustion, but the unease lingered, like a shadow creeping just out of sight. Lucas, however, was all enthusiasm. He squeezed her hand again, his grin infectious. If this place checks out, we're locking it in. I'm done dragging you through this heat. Clara nodded, managing a smile. Fine, but I'm inspecting every corner. If it's not perfect, we're not signing anything. They laughed, oblivious to the darkness that awaited them. The townhouse, with its creaking floors and shuttered windows, hid secrets older than the city itself, secrets that would unravel their dreams and draw them into a nightmare they could never have foreseen. The air in the cafe seemed to thicken. The fans hung, growing faintly discordant, as if whispering a warning they couldn't yet hear. The next morning, Lucas and Clara stood before a 3-story townhouse on a quiet street in Lisbon's outskirts. The stillness of the neighborhood was a stark contrast to the city's bustling heart. The houses lining the street were elegant, with neatly trimmed hedges and wrought iron gates, yet they exuded an eerie emptiness, as if the life had been drained from them. The house before them, built on a modest 5 by 16-meter plot, boasted a modern, designed charcoal gray walls accented with crisp white trim and a sleek iron fence. A few small olive trees dotted the front yard, lending a touch of nature to the otherwise austere facade. Lucas gazed at the house, his eyes alight with excitement. It's stunning. If the inside's half as good, this is a steal. Clara nodded, but a nagging unease gnawed at her. She couldn't pinpoint why, but the house felt wrong. Perhaps it was the neighbors, who seemed to avoid their gaze as they stepped out of the taxi, their curtains twitching shut. Or maybe it was the sudden gust of cold air that swept past. Despite the scorching sun overhead, the cafe owner arrived on a faded yellow Vespa, her smile as warm as the day before, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. Well, what do you think? Built just a few years ago, practically brand new. My friend moved to Germany and won't be back. That's why it's priced so low. Lucas, already inspecting the fence and the tidy front yard, nodded eagerly. Clara trailed behind, her eyes catching the woman's quick glances around the street, as if checking for prying eyes. Has anyone else lived here before? Clara asked, her tone casual but laced with curiosity. The woman flinched, almost imperceptibly, before her smile returned. Oh no, just my friend's family. They left for Germany right after it was built, so it's barely been touched. Come inside, you'll love it. She unlocked the iron gate, leading them into the small but immaculate front yard. 2 patches of earth flanked the path, perfect for a flower garden. A wrought iron swing sat beneath a sprawling fig tree, an inviting spot for quiet evenings. Clara smiled, picturing herself and Lucas there, sipping wine under the stars, laughing over shared dreams. Inside, the living room was spacious and bathed in light, prompting a delighted gasp from Lucas. Clara, look at this. We could fit a sectional here, a TV there, and still have room for a dining table. This is perfect. Clara nodded, but the unease surged again, sharper now. She scanned the room, searching for the source of her discomfort. Everything seemed flawless. Polished wooden furniture arranged with care, gleaming hardwood floors, and sunlight streaming through large windows, casting a cozy glow. Yet something was off. A faint chill lingered in the air, despite the open windows and the sun's warmth. She shook her head, telling herself it was just nerves. The woman led them through the kitchen and up to the upper floors. The house had 4 bedrooms, spacious enough for visits from their families. Lucas grew more animated with every room, planning where they'd place their bed, how they'd decorate, even suggesting a corner for Clara's beloved herb garden. Clara forced a smile, her eyes darting to shadowed corners, as if expecting something to emerge. After a thorough tour, Lucas turned to Clara, his face alight with hope. "What do you think? This place is incredible, and the price is right. It's not too far from my office either." Clara hesitated. The unease hadn't faded, but she saw the excitement in Lucas's eyes. He'd been tireless in their search, and she didn't want to dampen his spirits. "It's beautiful," she admitted. "If you're sure, let's do it." Lucas's grin was radiant as he squeezed her hand. "Done. We'll put down a deposit today and move in within 2 weeks." "Thank you so much." He turned to the woman, who nodded, her smile oddly triumphant. The woman's gaze flicked to Clara, and for a fleeting moment, Clara felt a shiver, as if the woman knew something she wasn't saying. "You're welcome," she said smoothly. "This house is special. I promise you that." As they left, their hearts buoyed by the promise of a new beginning, Lucas and Clara were unaware of the darkness lurking within their new home. The townhouse held secrets ancient, malevolent forces that had driven its previous owners to flee. In terror, the air seemed to hum with a low, unnatural vibration as they walked away, the house watching, waiting, ready to claim its next inhabitants in a nightmare that would shatter their dreams forever. 15 days after placing their deposit, Lucas and Clara officially moved into the 3-story townhouse on the quiet Lisbon outskirts. The morning sun filtered through the ancient olive trees, glinting off the iron fence and bathing the house in a jewel-like shimmer. A small moving van idled at the curb, and Lucas, his t-shirt soaked with sweat, hauled cardboard boxes into this front yard with boundless energy. Clara, in a flowing lavender dress, stood at the front door, directing the placement of their belongings. Her smile was radiant, but a faint unease lingered in her chest, like a cold draft slipping through a crack. "Should we put the dining set in the living room?" Lucas called from the yard, hefting a small oak table. "I think by the window. There, it'll catch the light perfectly." Clara nodded, stepping out to help him. "Yeah, that works. I'll hang some sheer curtains to soften the glare. Just be careful. Don't strain your back." Lucas laughed, his voice brimming with vigor. "Don't worry, I'm built for this. These boxes are nothing. Why don't you take a break inside? I've got this." Clara shook her head, her smile softening. Lucas's enthusiasm always warmed her heart. He was always the one to shoulder the load, shielding her from worry. But as she glanced back at the house, that nagging unease resurfaced. She couldn't place it. Perhaps it was the shadowed corners of the living room or the faint whistle of wind through the window frames, carrying an odd, almost human murmur. For the first few days, everything seemed idyllic. Lucas and Clara transformed the house into their own, painting a living room wall a soft sage green, placing a small cactus on the windowsill, and hanging a beloved seascape painting Clara adored. In the evenings, they sat on the wrought iron swing under the fig tree, sipping chamomile tea and dreaming aloud. Lucas talked about buying a used Vespa for his commute, while Clara envisioned a tiny garden with lavender and rosemary. Those moments dulled her unease, but it never fully vanished. On the third night, Clara lay awake in their new bed on the second floor, staring at the ceiling. Lucas slept soundly beside her, his steady breathing a stark contrast to her racing pulse. An invisible weight pressed on her chest, as if unseen eyes watched from the shadows. She sat up, flicked on the bedside lamp, and scanned the room. Everything was in place. The walnut wardrobe, the abstract watercolor on the wall, the tightly shut window with its swaying linen curtains. Yet the sensation of being watched persisted, cold and unrelenting. Barefoot, she stepped onto the icy hardwood floor, each creak echoing in the silent night. She crept to the hallway, peering down the staircase to the darkened living room below. Only faint streetlight filtered through the windows, casting ghostly shadows. Then she heard a soft sound like cautious footsteps on the wooden stairs. The noise was faint but deliberate, sending her heart pounding. She froze, holding her breath, straining to listen. The footsteps paused, then resumed, slow and measured, as if someone or something tried not to be heard. "Lucas?" Clara whispered, her voice trembling. Silence answered. She glanced back at the bedroom, where Lucas remained fast asleep. Telling herself it was her imagination, she stepped into the hallway again. But the sound returned, sharper now, like fingernails scraping lightly against wood. Clutching her phone, she activated the flashlight and descended the stairs, her beam cutting through the darkness. The light revealed nothing amiss on the polished staircase. She checked the living room, the front door, the windows, all securely. Locked, but as she entered the kitchen, a sudden chill enveloped her, raising goosebumps. On the counter, a white porcelain plate lay upside down, as if dropped. Clara frowned, wondering if she or Lucas had left it there. But as she reached for it, her blood ran cold. The plate wasn't just overturned, bore a jagged crack, as if someone had slammed it with force. Heart racing, Clara set the plate down and scanned the kitchen, feeling unseen eyes boring into her. "Is someone there?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. No reply came, only the eerie whistle of wind through a crack, carrying a faint, chilling sound like a stifled laugh from afar. Panicked, she fled upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and slid under the covers beside Lucas, trying to convince herself it was all in her head. The next morning, she told Lucas. He listened, but his playful smile suggested skepticism. "Probably just a dream," he said, ruffling her hair. "New house, new noises. You're just not used to it yet. I'll double-check the locks tonight, okay? No one's getting in." Clara nodded, reluctant to push further. She didn't want him to think she was paranoid, but she began to notice. More the strange creaks in the night, the inexplicable cold spots in certain rooms, the way neighbors averted their eyes when she tried to greet them. Something was deeply wrong with this house, and Clara resolved to uncover the truth, unaware that it would lead her to a horror beyond her worst nightmares. The days that followed in their new home unfolded with an unsettling rhythm, both familiar and disturbingly strange. Lucas and Clara threw themselves into their new life, juggling work and plans for their upcoming wedding. But each night, as the last light of day faded and darkness swallowed the house, Clara felt an oppressive weight settle over her mind. The faint noises, the sudden drafts of cold air, and the persistent sensation of being watched grew sharper, as if the house itself were alive, its walls pulsing with a silent scrutiny. On a quiet Saturday evening, after a long day choosing wedding invitations, Clara sat on the wrought iron swing in the front yard, cradling a steaming mug of chamomile tea. Lucas was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, a hearty bacalhau stew, Clara's favorite. The rhythmic chopping of vegetables mingled with the soft hum of a fado tune on the radio, creating a veneer of calm. Yet Clara couldn't relax. She gazed out at the darkened street, where only a few dim streetlights cast weak glows on the olive trees, The neighboring houses were shuttered tight, their silence unnatural, as if the entire street held its breath. The isolation sent a shiver through her, despite the warmth of her shawl. She stood, intending to join Lucas inside, when a peculiar sound came from the corner of the yard, a faint scratching, like claws dragging across stone. Her heart quickened. She fumbled for her phone, switched on the flashlight, and swept the beam toward the bare patch of earth where she planned to plant roses. The light caught only scattered leaves stirred by the breeze. She told herself it was just a rat or a stray cat, but as she turned away, a pair of glowing emerald eyes flashed in the darkness near the iron fence. Clara gasped, nearly dropping her phone. She swung the beam back, and there it was, a large black cat, its fur gleaming like obsidian, perched motionless on the bare earth. Its eyes burned with an unnatural intensity, locked on her with a chilling stillness. Clara wasn't afraid of cats, but this one unnerved her. It didn't blink, didn't meow, just stared, as if peering into her soul. A cold dread crept up her spine. "Clara, dinner's almost ready." Lucas's voice boomed from the house, shattering the silence. She flinched, glancing toward the door. When she looked back, the cat was gone, as if it had never been there. Shaking her head, she tried to dismiss the unease and headed inside. Dinner was lively, with Lucas recounting a co-worker's antics, and Clara describing the lace-trimmed wedding dress she'd chosen. But her mind kept drifting to those glowing eyes. After washing the dishes, she slipped back to the yard to check again, but found only shadows and the eerie whistle of wind through the fence. That night, sleep eluded her. Lying in bed, she listened to Lucas's steady breathing, but her thoughts were consumed by a vivid, disturbing dream. In it, she stood in the living room, but the space was warped, as if viewed through shattered glass. The light streaming through. The windows wasn't the warm gold of street lamps, but a sickly crimson, like pooling blood. Heavy footsteps echoed from the staircase, slow and deliberate, dragging something unseen. Clara tried to run, but her feet were rooted to the floor. Then a voice neither male nor female whispered in her ear, cold and urgent, "Leave this place now." She jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The bedside clock read 3 a.m., the witching hour, as her grandmother used to call it. She flicked on the lamp, scanning the room. Lucas slept undisturbed. The wardrobe, the painting, the curtains, all were as they should be. Yet the whisper lingered in her mind, sharp and real. She decided not to tell Lucas, fearing he'd dismiss it as another overactive imagination. The next morning, while Lucas was at work, Clara resolved to ask the neighbors about the cat. Armed with a tin of homemade shortbread, she hoped to break the ice. She knocked on the house next door, hearing faint movement inside, but no one answered. The same silence greeted her at other homes' closed shutters. No response. Finally, she approached the old woman at the end of the street, the only neighbor who'd ever acknowledged her. The woman, her face a map of wrinkles and her eyes cloudy, studied Clara before inviting her in. "I wanted to ask about a cat," Clara began hesitantly. "Last night, I saw a big black one with green eyes in our yard. Does it belong to anyone around here?" The woman's hands trembled as she clutched her teacup. She met Clara's gaze, her voice low and raspy. "That cat, it doesn't belong to anyone, child. It's not from this street." Clara frowned, a chill settling over her. "What do you mean? Is it a stray?" The woman shook her head, her eyes filled with dread. "Don't ask too many questions. That house of yours, it holds things you shouldn't disturb. If you see that cat again, don't look into its eyes, and if you can, leave that house." Clara opened her mouth to press further, but the woman stood, gesturing her out. As Clara left, her heart sank. The old woman's words, paired with the dream, convinced her that their home hid something sinister. She glanced back at the townhouse, its iron fence and tiny olive trees now menacing. In the morning light, for the first time, it didn't feel like a home, it felt like a trap, waiting to close around them. The days that followed draped Clara in an invisible fog, where everything seemed normal, yet pulsed with an unnamed dread. The three-story townhouse, with its sleek modern lines and cozy interiors, had become a labyrinth of suspicion and fear. She tried to anchor herself in routine work, wedding plans, decorating, but each night, as darkness cloaked the house, she felt unseen eyes tracking her every move. That Monday morning, Lucas left early for the office. He kissed Clara's forehead, his smile as warm as ever. Big meeting today, might be late. Make sure you eat, okay? Don't stress too much about the wedding. He winked, coaxing a smile from her. Clara nodded, but her smile was forced. She hadn't told Lucas about the nightmare that plagued her the previous night, a seated vision of a blood-streaked woman standing in the corner of the living room, muttering incomprehensible words. Nor did she mention the black cat with glowing emerald eyes, which she'd seen again last night, perched motionless on the yard swing, staring as if it had something to say. She knew Lucas wouldn't believe her. He was always the rational one, quick to dismiss her fears as stress or an overactive imagination. Once he was gone, Clara resolved to stop ignoring the signs. The old neighbor's warning echoed in her mind. That house holds things you shouldn't disturb. She sat at the kitchen table, opened her laptop, and searched the house's address, adding keywords like crime, accident, or haunting. The results were mundane real estate listings, local news, until she tried searching for the neighborhood. A 2020 article from the local Lisbon paper caught her eye. Gruesome murder shocks quiet suburb. Her pulse quickened as she clicked. The article detailed the brutal killing of a young woman, about 25, found in a three-story townhouse's bathroom, her body marred by knife wounds, her face slashed from mouth to ear. The killer was never caught, leaving the case an unsolved mystery. The description of the house, 3 stories, iron fence, small front yard with olive trees matched their home perfectly. Clara's blood ran cold. One detail froze her. The article mentioned a large black cat found near the body, its green eyes glowing eerily. Locals whispered it was the woman's spirit guide, still prowling the property, searching. Clara slammed the laptop shut, her hands trembling. She glanced at the yard where the cat had appeared, feeling an invisible hand grip her heart. She called Sophia, her closest friend from university, always a steady voice of reason. Sophia, something's wrong with this house, Clara said, her voice shaky. She recounted the dream, the cat, and the article. Sophia, usually quick with a joke, fell silent. Clara, don't stay there alone. I'll come over tonight, and we'll figure this out. Maybe you need, I don't know, a priest or a medium. Clara agreed, though finding a medium in Lisbon felt daunting. She didn't want Lucas to think she was superstitious, but she couldn't live in this fear any longer. She decided to visit the old neighbor again for answers, but when she knocked, no one answered. Faint footsteps sounded behind the door, then stopped. Clara sighed, the isolation pressing harder. When Lucas returned that evening, Clara noticed something off. He smiled and chatted, but his eyes seemed vacant, as if looking through her. During dinner, he paused mid-bite, his knife hovering in the air. "Lucas, you okay?" Clara asked, her voice tight. He blinked, as if waking from a trance. "Yeah, just tired." His voice was low, almost gravelly, unlike his usual warmth. Clara met his gaze, and for a fleeting moment, a glint of emerald green flashed in his eyes identical to the cat's. That night, sleep evaded her. Lying beside Lucas, she listened to his breathing, but each time she closed her eyes, The bloodied woman from her dream appeared, her slashed face grinning grotesquely. Then she heard its slow, deliberate footsteps on the wooden stairs, just like their first night. She sat up, clutching Lucas's arm, but he didn't stir. Heart pounding, she grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept to the hallway. The footsteps stopped as she reached the staircase. The darkness below the living room was thick, swallowing her light. Then came a sound, a low, chilling chuckle, like wind hissing through an ancient crypt. Clara froze, unable to move. From the base of the stairs, the cat's green eyes gleamed, staring up at her. This time, it didn't just watch. It let out a piercing wail, sharp and mournful, like a child's cry. Clara screamed, stumbling back and collapsing onto the floor. Lucas rushed out, pulling her into his arms. "Clara, what's wrong? What happened?" he asked, his voice frantic. She pointed to the stairs, but the cat was gone. Trembling, she told him everything: the article, the chuckle, the cat. Lucas held her, soothing her, but his eyes held that same strange glint. "You're just exhausted," he said. "Sleep. I'll check the house tomorrow." But Clara knew it wasn't exhaustion. Something in this house was closing in, and it was no longer content to watch from the shadows. The days that followed turned the 3-story townhouse into an invisible battlefield, torn between reality and the inexplicable. Clara felt as if she were balancing on a tightrope, one side holding the happy life she and Lucas had envisioned, the other a yawning abyss filled with whispers, the cat's glowing emerald eyes, and nightmares that clawed at her sanity. She tried to maintain a facade of normalcy for Lucas, but each night, as darkness smothered the house, an icy grip tightened around her heart. That morning, after another sleepless night, Clara sat at the kitchen table, watching Lucas prepare for work. He wore a crisp white shirt, his hair neatly combed, but something was off. His eyes, once vibrant and warm, were dull, staring into a void. When he leaned down to kiss her goodbye, his lips were cold, his breath carrying a strange, earthy scent, like damp soil after rain. "I'm off," he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Stay safe and don't worry too much." Clara nodded, but as the door closed behind him, a shiver ran through her. She couldn't shake the memory of last night when she'd woken at midnight to find Lucas standing at the foot of the bed, motionless, his eyes wide and fixed on nothing. She'd called his name, but he only muttered incoherent words, as if speaking to someone unseen. When she touched his shoulder, he flinched, his gaze cold and alien, before collapsing back into bed, sleeping as if nothing had happened. His breathing was steady, but that look empty, menacing haunted her. She could no longer stay silent. The article about the murder, the old woman's warning, and the black cat formed a chilling puzzle she couldn't ignore. Her first thought was the cafe owner who'd introduced them to the house. Clara grabbed her phone, found the woman's number, and dialed. The line rang, then cut to a robotic voice. "The number you have called is no longer in service." She tried again, but the result was the same. Determined, Clara decided to visit the cafe on Rua Augusta. She threw on a simple t-shirt and a cap, taking a tram to the city center. When she arrived, her heart sank. The cafe was shuttered, its wooden sign gone, the windows coated in dust. A street vendor nearby noticed her confusion. "Looking for the owner? She's gone. Left months ago, they say. Moved to the Algarve or somewhere no one knows for sure." Clara felt a punch to her chest. The one person who knew the house's origins had vanished. She asked others in the area, but they either knew nothing or avoided her gaze. The isolation tightened around her, as if the entire city were hiding a secret she wasn't meant to uncover. Back home, Clara sank onto the sofa, opened her laptop, and dug deeper. She scoured local forums for stories about the neighborhood or the house. A post in a private group caught her eye, titled "The Haunted House on the Outskirts." Anonymous. It described a 3-story townhouse where a young woman was brutally murdered, her death cursing the property. Subsequent residents faced misfortune, the post claimed, ending with a stark warning: don't buy that house, no matter how cheap. It's not clean. Comments mocked the story or begged for details, but the author never replied. Clara's heart pounded. She printed the article and post, tucking them into a notebook, determined to learn more. As she closed the laptop, a sharp clatter echoed from the kitchen metal hitting the floor. She froze, then crept toward the sound. A kitchen knife lay on the tiles, its blade glinting under the light. She was certain she'd stored it in the drawer after breakfast. Trembling, she picked it up, and in its polished surface, her reflection stared back, but the eyes weren't hers. They glowed emerald green, like the cat's. Clara screamed, dropping the knife, and stumbled back against the wall. A cold, mocking laugh filled the air, sourceless, as if the house itself were jeering. Her heart raced as she clutched her face, trying to calm herself. She grabbed her phone and called Sophia. "Sophia, I can't do this anymore," she whispered, her voice breaking. "There's something in this house. I'm scared." Sophia arrived within the hour, offering a bottle of water and a tight hug. Listening to Clara's account, the cat, the knife, the laugh, Sophia gripped her hand, resolute. "Clara, you can't stay here alone. My mom knows a medium in Sintra, someone who deals with things like this. I'll take you to him tomorrow." Clara hesitated. She'd never believed in the supernatural, but logic couldn't explain what was happening. She glanced around the house, once their dream, now a shadowed trap. "Okay," she said, her voice shaky, "but don't tell Lucas. He's not himself. I'm afraid something's gotten to him." Sophia nodded, her eyes filled with worry. "I'll stay tonight. We'll see the medium tomorrow. It'll be okay, Clara." But as night fell with Clara on the sofa and Sophia beside her, the wooden stairs creaked again, heavier this time, as if something were being dragged. Clara clutched Sophia's hand, whispering, "Do you hear that?" Sophia nodded, her face pale. From the corner of the room, the cat's green eyes flared, and a chilling voice hissed from nowhere, "Leave or die." Confronting the abyss the next morning, Clara and Sophia boarded a bus to Sintra, carrying a mix of dread and fragile hope. Clara sat by the window, her gaze fixed on the rolling hills and eucalyptus groves, but her mind was haunted by last night's chilling laugh and the cat's piercing emerald eyes. Sophia, beside her, squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, Clara. My mom swears by this medium. He'll know what to do." Clara nodded, but her thoughts were tangled. She'd texted Lucas, saying she had an errand and would be back late, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him the truth. Lucas was changing his distant gaze, his cold voice, the nights he wandered with a knife in hand, muttering to himself. She feared something in the house was claiming him. The bus rattled along a winding road, arriving at a small village nestled among ancient pines. The medium's home was a weathered stone cottage, surrounded by a hedge of wild roses and a towering oak in the yard. A boy, about 10, opened the gate, his eyes curious. "You're the ones my grandma mentioned, right? The master's waiting?" Inside, the air was cool but heavy, as if countless unseen eyes watched from the shadows. An elderly man emerged, lean but spry, with a long white beard and piercing eyes. He wore a dark robe, a rosary dangling from his hand. "Sit, ladies," he said, his voice deep yet calm. "I hear your house has a problem." Clara recounted everything: the cat, the laugh, her nightmares, Lucas's eerie behavior. The man listened, nodding occasionally, his fingers tracing the rosary beads. When she mentioned the article about the murder, his brow furrowed. "Give me your birth dates and your partners." Clara complied, and the man opened a worn leather book, muttering calculations. Suddenly, he froze, his eyes darkening. "This is grave. A vengeful spirit haunts that house, and it's latched onto your partner. If we don't act soon, he'll be lost." Clara's eyes welled with tears, her voice breaking. "Please, how do we save him? What do I do?" The man rose, grabbing a cloth bag filled with talismans and red cords. "We must return to the house now. This spirit doesn't just seek revenge, it wants to drag others into its torment. Let's go." On the drive back, Clara slipped into a fitful doze. In her dream, she stood in the house's bathroom, where water ran crimson from the showerhead. A young woman, her face once beautiful, but now marred by knife slashes, stared at Clara through a cracked mirror. "He killed me," she whispered, her voice like ice. "He carved my face, left me to die in agony. Now he's here, inside your love." The woman grinned, blood seeping from her torn mouth. Clara jolted awake, soaked in sweat. Sophia gripped her hand, alarmed. "Bad dream? You look pale." Clara recounted the vision, her voice trembling. The medium, seated in front, turned, his expression grim. "The spirit is reaching out to you. It's not just a demon, it's a soul trapped in rage. We must confront it before it's too late." The car pulled up to the house as dusk fell. A cold aura emanated from the iron gate, as if the house were breathing. The medium stepped out, clutching a talisman, chanting softly in Latin. "Stay behind me, girl," he warned. "Don't enter until I signal." Clara nodded, her heart pounding. She stared at the house, once her and Lucas's dream, now a living tomb. She didn't know if Lucas was still himself, but she knew she had to save him, at any cost. As dusk bled crimson across the quiet suburban street, the three-story townhouse loomed like a sentinel, its iron fence glinting faintly under the fading sun. The air around it was frigid, heavy with an unnatural stillness, as if the house itself were a living grave. Clara stood at the gate, her heart pounding, clutching Sophia's hand for comfort. The medium, his white beard stark against his dark robe, gripped a talisman, chanting softly in Latin. "Stay behind me, girl," he commanded, his voice low but resolute. "Do nothing until I signal." Clara nodded, her legs trembling with fear. Sophia tightened her grip, her eyes wide with unease. They crossed the threshold, and the air inside thickened, the streetlights glow, unable to pierce the windows. A chilling aura enveloped them, as if the house exhaled malice. From the kitchen, a rhythmic chopping sound echoed slow, deliberate, each cut drawn out like a ritual. "Lucas?" Clara called, her voice quavering. The chopping stopped, and a figure emerged at the kitchen door. Lucas stood there, a kitchen knife in hand, fresh blood dripping from its blade onto the floor. His eyes were hollow, his face rigid and a grotesque smile curled his lips. "Clara, you're back?" His voice wasn't his own, gravelly, distant, as if spoken from another realm. Clara stumbled back, her heart constricting. "Lucas, what's wrong? Drop the knife!" She cried, but Lucas only tilted his head, his smile widening. Suddenly, he lunged forward, the knife raised, his eyes flashing with the same emerald glow as the cat's. The medium thrust a talisman forward, shouting, "Back! He's no longer your love." A burst of golden light flared, freezing Lucas in place, his growl feral. The medium turned to Clara, urgency in his voice. "The spirit has possessed him. It seeks vengeance and will kill anyone here. Stay calm." Sophia pulled Clara back, but Clara couldn't tear her eyes from Lucas. His body trembled, as if wrestling with something inside. The house's lights flickered wildly, and a chilling laugh echoed, like nails scraping glass. From the living rooms, shadows, the black cat materialized, its green eyes blazing at the medium. It let out a piercing wail, sharp as a grieving soul's cry. The medium drew a red cord from his bag, chanting louder. Vengeful spirit, I know your pain, but your wrath cannot harm the innocent. He flung the cord toward Lucas, but Lucas dodged with unnatural speed, the knife slashing toward the medium. Clara screamed, throwing herself at Lucas from behind, wrapping her arms around him. Lucas, wake up! You're Lucas, not this thing. Her voice broke, tears streaming down her face. For a fleeting moment, a familiar spark flickered in his eyes, as if he were fighting to break free. But then he shoved her to the floor, raising. The knife again dot swift as lightning. The medium hurled another talisman, striking Lucas's forehead. Lucas roared a guttural, inhuman sound and collapsed, the knife clattering to the floor. The medium knelt beside him, pressing the talisman down, chanting relentlessly. Call his name, girl. Your love can pull him back. Clara crawled to Lucas, sobbing, cradling his face. Lucas, do you hear me? It's Clara. I'm here. Don't let it win. Her voice cracked as she called to him, the wind howling and the spirit's shrieks filling the air. Lucas's body shuddered, his eyes slowly clearing, but the darkness in the house pulsed stronger, refusing to relent. The darkness in the 3-story townhouse pulsed like a living entity, swirling around Clara, Sophia, and the medium like an invisible storm. Lucas lay motionless on the floor, the talisman on his forehead glowing faintly gold. Clara knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face, clutching his hand. Lucas, please wake up, she sobbed, her voice breaking against the howling wind that sounded like cries from the underworld. The medium, his white beard trembling, pulled a red cord and a small bronze bell from his cloth bag. He began chanting, his deep voice resonating as if summoning spirits from beyond. Vengeful soul, your pain has caused enough suffering. Show yourself and let me free you. He rang the bell, its sharp chime slicing through the oppressive air. Suddenly, the house's lights flickered violently, and an inhuman scream erupted from the walls themselves. Clara clung to Sophia, her heart pounding as a shadowy figure materialized in the corner of the living room. It was a young woman, her long hair drenched, her face ghostly pale with a jagged gash from mouth to ear. Blood dripped onto the hardwood, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. Her eyes blazed with the same emerald glow as the cat's, boring into Clara as if to unravel her soul. You dare stay here? The woman's voice rasped like a blade scraping glass. Heat killed. And you will all die. She pointed at Lucas, and a freezing gust swept through the room, making Clara shudder. The medium raised the red cord, his chant intensifying. Spirit, I know your injustice, but this vengeance must end. He hurled the cord toward the figure, but she vanished, leaving only a chilling laugh echoing in the air. Then, the bathroom door at the end of the hallway slammed open, and the sound of rushing water filled the house. Clara's eyes widened in terror. She felt an invisible force, tugging her toward the bathroom. Don't go, Sophia shouted, but Clara couldn't resist, her steps guided by an unseen power. She pushed open the door, and the sight before her stopped her cold. Blood-red water poured from the showerhead, pooling across the tiled floor. In the mirror, the woman's image sharpened, her face twisted in agony, her hands scarred with knife, wounds raised in desperation. He did this, she whispered, her voice thick with hatred. He slashed my face, left me to die in my blood. The mirror shifted, replaying a horrific scene. The woman pinned down by a shadowy figure, a knife carving her face, her screams blending with the rush of water. Clara screamed, stumbling back, but the bathroom door slammed shut, trapping her. Inside, she pounded on it, calling for Sophia and the medium, but no one answered. In the mirror, the woman drew closer, her mutilated face inches away. "Leave or die with him," she snarled, blood spraying from her torn mouth onto the glass, obscuring Clara's reflection. Outside, the medium chanted louder, ringing the bell with fervor. He knelt beside Lucas, placing another talisman on his chest. "Call his name, girl. Your love is the only light that can save him," he shouted, his voice cutting through the spirit's wails. Clara, despite her terror, heard the medium's words. She forced herself to face the mirror, where the woman still screamed. "Lucas, I love you. Come back to me," she cried, tears mixing with the crimson water on the floor. The bell's chime intensified, and a golden light pierced through the door, making the figure in the mirror dissolve. The door flew open, and Clara collapsed into Sophia's arms. Lucas groaned, his eyes fluttering open, but the eerie green glint lingered. The medium's brow furrowed. "It's not over. This spirit is stronger than I anticipated. We need more time." Clara held Lucas tightly, her heart breaking. She knew the battle was far from won, and the vengeful spirit would not release its grip so easily. The three-story townhouse shuddered as if besieged by an invisible tempest. Lights flickered wildly, and the spirit's unearthly screams tore through the air as if ripping the fabric of reality. Lucas lay on the floor, his body trembling, the talisman on his forehead glowing a faint gold before dimming. His eyes, flickering with a malevolent emerald sheen, no longer belonged to him, but to something cruel inhabiting his form. Clara knelt beside him, tears streaming, clutching his hand. "Lucas, can you hear me? Don't leave me," she cried, her voice breaking against the howling wind. The medium stood over Lucas, gripping a red cord, his chants unrelenting. The bronze bell in his hand rang sharply, its chime cutting through the spirit's wails. "Vengeful spirit, your reign of torment ends now," he bellowed, casting the cord toward Lucas. It wrapped around his body, glowing crimson as if binding. An unseen force. Lucas roared, an inhuman sound, thrashing against the cord, but it tightened, holding him fast. From the corner of the room, the black cat appeared, its green eyes blazing at the medium. It let out a chilling wail, like a child's cry, making Sophia clutch her head, trembling. "Don't fear, girl," the medium barked. "Call his name, use your love to bring him back." He placed another talisman on Lucas's chest, his. Chance accelerating. Clara clung to Lucas, ignoring his shuddering body and icy breath. "Lucas, I love you. You're my everything. Don't let it win," she sobbed. A dark mist suddenly poured from Lucas's mouth, coiling toward the ceiling like a toxic cloud. The spirit materialized, fully a young woman with a mutilated face, blood seeping from her torn mouth, her eyes burning with hatred. "He must die," she shrieked, pointing at Lucas. "All who stay here will die." The medium raised the bell, ringing it fiercely, and a golden light erupted, forcing the spirit back. "You've suffered enough, but this vengeance must cease," he declared. From his bag, he produced a small mirror etched with sacred symbols and aimed it at the spirit. "Look here and face the truth of your death." The spirit screamed, but the mirror's light held her still. Within it, the murder replayed, the woman pinned down by a man, a knife slashing her face, blood pooling. She wailed, but the mirror's glow softened her rage. "He killed me, but I cannot rest," she whispered, her voice fading. Clara kept calling Lucas's name, gripping his hand. "Lucas, come back to me. We'll have a family, a future. Don't leave me." Suddenly, his eyes opened, the green glow vanishing, replaced by their familiar warmth. He groaned, pulling Clara close. "Clara, I'm sorry." His voice was weak, but his own in the mirror, The spirit's ravaged face softened into one of beauty. She looked at the medium, her eyes grateful. "Thank you for freeing me." She dissolved into mist, fading into the air. The house fell silent, the lights steady once more. The medium exhaled, setting the bell down. "It's done. The spirit is released, but be cautious. Girl, such malice leaves echoes." Clara held Lucas, sobbing with relief. He was weak but safe. She looked at the medium, her voice trembling. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without him." The old man smiled, stroking his beard. "Your love was the greatest power. Now care for him and leave this house if you can." The three-story townhouse fell silent, as if the supernatural storm had been merely a dream. The lights no longer flickered, and the chilling air dissipated, leaving only the humid stillness of a Lisbon summer night. Lucas lay on the sofa, his breathing shallow but steady, his eyes free of the eerie emerald glow. Clara knelt beside him, clutching his hand, tears streaking her face. Sophia stood nearby, her expression a mix of relief and lingering unease. The medium gathered his red cord and bronze bell, his weathered face deep in thought. "Is he okay?" Clara asked, her voice trembling, her gaze fixed on Lucas. The medium nodded, stroking his white beard. "He's himself again. The spirit's hold is broken, but his body is weak. He'll need rest for a few days." He sat on a chair, pulling a worn leather book from his bag and flipping through its pages before looking at Clara. "Would you like to know about the spirit? Understanding its story may help you release your fear." Clara nodded, though her heart quivered. The medium's voice grew somber as he began. Her name was Aina, and she lived here 5 years ago. Young, beautiful, she loved a man deeply. But he betrayed her. One stormy night, he killed her in the bathroom, slashing her face with a knife, leaving her to die in agony and shame. Her rage was so potent it bound her to this house, turning her into a vengeful spirit, lashing out at anyone who dared stay. Clara shuddered, recalling the vision in the bathroom, the blood-red water, Aina's mutilated face. "And the black cat?" she asked, not the medium sighed. "It was Aina's pet, witness to her murder. Its soul became tethered to her, a conduit for her wrath. Your love for Lucas weakened her hold, giving me the chance to bind her." He rose, retrieving a large talisman etched with sacred symbols. Placing it on the table, he chanted softly, and a faint mist formed, taking Aina's shape, not the terrifying specter, but a beautiful young woman with sorrowful eyes. "Thank you for freeing me," Aina whispered, her voice soft as a breeze. "I didn't want to hurt anyone, but my hatred was too strong." She looked at Clara, her gaze grateful. "Your love, it was stronger than my pain." The medium raised the talisman, and Aina's form dissolved, as if guided to the afterlife. He turned to Clara. "She's gone now, but this house still carries echoes of her malice. If you can, leave it." Lucas stirred, his eyes fluttering open. "Clara," he murmured, his voice faint. Clara threw her arms around him, sobbing. "You're safe now. I'm here." Lucas managed a weak smile, though. Confusion lingered in his eyes. He squeezed her hand, whispering, "I'm sorry. I don't know what happened." Sophia exhaled, patting Clara's shoulder. "It's over. Take care of him now." The medium declined Clara's offer to stay, gathering his tools. "I must go. There's more work to be done," he said, stepping out into the night, leaving Clara and Lucas in a house now calm, but heavy with an unspoken weight. Clara looked at Lucas, relief flooding her, though fear lingered. She knew they had to leave this house, even if it meant abandoning their dream of a home. But with Lucas by her side, she felt ready to face any challenge. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting soft rays on Lucas's pale face. He lay in bed, eyes wide, a flicker of confusion still lingering in his gaze. Clara sat beside him, gripping his hand tightly, masking the fear that clung to her heart. Though the medium had banished the spirit, the three-story Lisbon townhouse retained a heavy presence, as if Ana's malice had left an indelible stain. "How do you feel?" Clara asked, her voice gentle but laced with worry. She brushed his hair, searching for the familiar warmth in his eyes. Lucas managed a faint smile. "I'm okay, just tired. I don't remember much from last night, but I know you saved me." He squeezed her hand, his eyes brimming with gratitude. "I'm sorry for scaring you, Clara." Clara shook her head, tears welling. "It wasn't your fault. As long as you're safe, I'm not afraid." But deep down, she knew she was lying. Fear clung to her like a shadow. Every time she passed the bathroom, she saw the crimson water and Ana's mutilated face. She wasn't certain the house was truly safe. At noon, Clara went to a nearby pharmacy to buy vitamins for Lucas. As she stood at the counter, a wave of dizziness hit her, an odd sensation wrapping around her. The pharmacist, a middle-aged woman, studied her with curiosity. "You don't look well, dear. Could you be pregnant?" Clara flinched, shaking her head instinctively, but the woman's words lingered. She bought a pregnancy test, her mind racing. Back home, she slipped into the bathroom, her hands trembling as she checked the result. 2 bold lines appeared. Clara froze, a mix of joy and dread surging within her. She was pregnant, a spark of hope amidst the nightmare they'd endured. But the thought of raising a child in this house, once Ana's tomb, sent a chill through her. That evening, Clara told Lucas about the pregnancy. He sat up, his eyes lighting up, a radiant smile banishing his exhaustion. "Really, Clara? We're having a baby?" He pulled her into a tight embrace, spinning her gently, his laughter filling the room. "I promise, I'll do everything to keep you and our child safe." But their joy was fleeting. In the dead of night, as Lucas slept soundly, Clara heard an unsettling sound, slow, deliberate footsteps on the wooden stairs. Her heart pounded as she sat up, grabbing her phone and turning on the flashlight. The hallway was pitch black, but the footsteps persisted, as if something were being dragged. She called Lucas's name, but he didn't stir. Stepping out, her flashlight swept the staircase, and in the living room's corner, the black cat's emerald eyes gleamed. Clara froze, her breath catching. The cat didn't move, staring at her as if issuing a warning. Then, from the bathroom, a faint, chilling laugh echoed, like wind hissing through a graveyard. Clara stumbled back, slamming the bedroom door, her heart racing. The medium had said the spirit was gone, so why were the footsteps and the cat still here? The next morning, Clara resolved to speak to Lucas. "We can't stay here," she said firmly. "I don't want our child growing up in this house." Lucas looked at her, concern in his eyes, but he nodded. "All right, we'll find somewhere." "No, I don't want you to be afraid." Clara exhaled, relieved, but a weight lingered in her chest. She knew that even if they left, the darkness of this house might haunt them forever. In the days following the harrowing ordeal, the 3-story Lisbon townhouse seemed calmer, but Clara couldn't shake the persistent unease. Each morning, she woke hoping the nightmare was over, but the memory of the slow footsteps on the wooden stairs and the black cat's piercing emerald eyes haunted her. Lucas, though recovering, remained frail, his gaze occasionally vacant, as if a fragment of him lingered in the darkness of that fateful night. Clara and Lucas agreed they couldn't stay, especially with her pregnancy. They contacted a real estate agent, listing the house below market value to attract buyers. But whispers of the haunted house had spread through the neighborhood. Potential buyers fled after hearing neighbors murmur about the slashed woman and laughter in the night. One young couple seemed interested, but after spotting the black cat perched on the garden swing, They shook their heads and left without a word. "What do we do, Lucas?" Clara asked, her voice heavy with worry, as they sat in the living room, the dim glow of a lamp casting shadows on their weary faces. "No one wants this house. I'm scared. If we stay, it'll happen again." Lucas took her hand, forcing a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Clara. We'll figure it out. If we have to, we'll lower the price more. All that matters is you and the baby are safe." His voice trembled slightly, betraying his own uncertainty. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay on the sofa, her hand resting on her belly, feeling the faint stirrings of their unborn child. Lucas slept in the bedroom, his steady breathing drifting through the cracked door. Then she heard its slow, deliberate footsteps on the wooden stairs, as if something heavy were being dragged. Her heart raced as she grabbed her phone, switching on the flashlight. The beam swept the hallway, revealing nothing but thick darkness. She crept downstairs, each step plunging her deeper into an icy, otherworldly chill. In the living room's corner, the black cat appeared, its glowing green eyes locked on her. It didn't move or meow, just stared as if waiting. Then, from the bathroom, a faint, chilling laugh echoed, like wind hissing through a graveyard. Clara froze, her breath catching. The medium had said the spirit was gone, so why were the cat and the sounds still here? She turned to run upstairs, but the bathroom door creaked open, releasing a frigid gust. In the darkness, a shadowy figure loomed, its long, dripping hair obscuring its face. "Leave," a voice whispered, neither male nor female. Clara screamed, stumbling back and collapsing onto the floor. Lucas rushed down, pulling her into his arms. "Clara, what's wrong? Another nightmare?" She shook her head, tears streaming. "No, Lucas, something's still here. I saw it, and the cat." She pointed to the corner, but the cat had vanished. Lucas looked at her, concerned, etching his face, but he said nothing, only holding her tighter. The next morning, Clara called Sophia, recounting everything. "I can't take it anymore, Sophia. The baby's coming, and this house isn't safe." Sophia paused, then said, "I'll ask my mom if the medium can return. But Clara, you and Lucas need to leave now. Don't wait to sell." Clara nodded, though she knew leaving wasn't simple. She glanced at the garden, where the swing swayed gently, despite the still air. Even if they escaped, she feared the darkness of this house would cling to them forever. A week later, Lucas and Clara settled into a small apartment on the 10th floor of a modern Lisbon high-rise. Large windows overlooked the Tagus River, its waters glinting with city lights. The bright, tidy space felt like a stark contrast to the oppressive 3-story townhouse. Clara stood by the window, her hand resting on her belly, feeling the faint pulse of their unborn child. She hoped this would be a fresh start, a place to bury the nightmare. Lucas, though still frail, had returned to work. He kept up a cheerful facade, often bringing home fresh roses to brighten the living room and make Clara smile. "See, this place is so much better," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "No more footsteps or creepy cats. Just you, me, and the baby." Clara smiled, but a weight lingered in her chest. The old house remained unsold, despite drastic price cuts. Rumors of its haunted past had spread, and real estate agents sighed in frustration. Worse, even in this new apartment, Clara couldn't shake the sense of being watched. The previous night, while cooking in the kitchen, a shadow flitted past the window, and she glimpsed the black cat's glowing emerald eyes. It didn't meow, just stared, as if conveying an unspoken message. Asterisk that night, Clara dreamed of Aina. Again, in the dream, she stood in a dim bathroom, crimson water pouring from the showerhead. Aina appeared, her face no longer mutilated but beautiful, her eyes heavy with sorrow. "He's still here," Ana whispered, pointing to a shadowy figure. "In the corner. He hasn't been punished?" Clara tried to ask more, but Ana dissolved, leaving only a haunting sob. She woke drenched in sweat, her heart racing. The next morning, Clara called Sophia, her voice trembling. "Sophia, I saw her again. Ana said something about her killer, like she wants me to find him." Sophia paused, then replied, "Clara, maybe her spirit isn't fully at rest. I'll ask my mom about the medium. He might know what to do." Clara agreed, but dreaded returning to the old house. Instead, she resolved to dig deeper into Ana's murder. At a cafe near the apartment, she opened her laptop, scouring old news articles. A brief report caught her eye. Suspect in 2020 murder released due to lack of evidence. It mentioned a man named Joao, Ana's boyfriend, but offered no further details. Clara jotted down the name, her stomach churning. Was Ana guiding her to her killer? That evening, when Lucas returned, Clara shared her dream and the article. He frowned, his voice tinged with worry. "Clara, don't dig into this. We're out of that house. You're pregnant. Don't get caught up in ghost stories." But a flicker of unease crossed his eyes, as if he sensed something too late that night. With Lucas asleep, Clara stood by the window, gazing at the river. Suddenly, a shadow darted across the balcony, and the cat's emerald eyes gleamed, staring directly at her. A whisper carried on the breeze. "Find him?" Clara stepped back, her heart pounding. She realized that, even far from the house, Ana's darkness still clung to them. The new apartment in central Lisbon, with the city's lights twinkling outside, should have been a sanctuary for Clara and Lucas. But each night, as Clara closed her eyes, Ana's sorrowful face haunted her, her whisper echoing, "Find him." The black cat with its glowing emerald eyes still appeared, silently perched on the balcony, a persistent omen. Clara knew that, despite escaping the haunted townhouse, Ana's darkness clung to them. That morning, after Lucas left for work, Clara called Sophia to get the medium's number. She needed answers. Why hadn't Ana found peace? Sophia, her voice laced with concern, sent the contact and cautioned, "Clara, be careful. Don't let this affect the baby." Clara nodded over the phone, but her heart churned with fear and resolve. She wanted to protect Lucas and their child, but also to help Ana find rest. The medium answered immediately, his voice grave and steady. "I warned you, girl. That house carries echoes of malice. If the spirit still lingers, her killer's lack of justice binds her. Ana's soul is trapped by her unresolved grievance." He listened to Clara's account of the dream and the name. "Joao," his tone darkening. "Find that man. He's the key. But beware, Ana's wrath could endanger you." Clara hung up, her pulse racing. She opened her laptop, digging deeper into Joao, the suspect in the 2020 murder. An old article noted he'd been arrested but released for lack of evidence. No photo, just a description. A man in his early 30s, working in construction. Clara jotted down every detail, her stomach knotting. She felt Ana guiding her, but the path filled her with dread. That evening, when Lucas returned, Clara shared her call with the medium and her plan to investigate Joao. Lucas's brow furrowed, his voice sharp, a rare edge to it. "Clara, this is madness. We left that house. You're pregnant. Why chase ghost stories? I don't want you in danger." He gripped her hand, his eyes a mix of worry and frustration. Clara recoiled, hurt. "Lucas, I'm trying to protect us. If Ana isn't at rest, what's to stop her from coming back? I don't want our child growing up in fear." Her voice trembled, tears threatening. Lucas sighed, pulling her into an embrace. "I'm sorry. I just can't lose you. If you need to do this, let me help." But promise me, no reckless moves. Clara nodded, but deep down, she knew she couldn't stop. That night, she dreamed of Aina again. Aina stood before a construction site, pointing to a man in a hard hat. "That's him," she whispered, her face bloodied. "Find him before he finds you." Clara woke, drenched in sweat, and glanced at the balcony. The cat was there, its green eyes piercing. The next morning, Clara resolved to find the construction site from her dream. She knew it was risky, but she couldn't ignore Aina's call. She texted Sophia to join her, preparing to uncover the secret Aina urged her to find. Yet, deep within, she feared that confronting Joe might unleash a darkness far worse than anything they'd faced. The midday, Saigon sun blazed overhead. As Clara and Sophia stood before a bustling construction site in District 7, the roar of drills and shouts of workers filling the air. Clara clutched her phone, her heart racing as she recalled last night's dream, Anna pointing to a man at this very site, her voice dripping with hatred. "That's him. Find him." Sophia, standing close, gripped Clara's hand for reassurance. "Are you sure about this, Clara? If he's a killer, this could be dangerous." Clara nodded, though her pulse thundered. "I have to do this, Sophia. If I don't, Aina will never rest and will never escape her shadow." She scanned the site, searching for a man matching the article's description, early 30s. In construction. They approached a temporary office at the site, where a man in a hard hat reviewed blueprints. He had sharp features, cold eyes, and a faint scar on his left cheek. Clara felt a chill down her spine. This was Joe. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Are you Joe? I need to talk about something that happened 5 years ago." Joe looked up, his icy gaze sweeping over Clara and Sophia. "Who are you?" "I don't know anything about any incident." His voice was low, but tension crept into it. He stood, stepping closer, making Sophia instinctively step back. Clara held her ground. "About Aina, the woman killed in the house on the outskirts. You knew her, didn't you?" She locked eyes with him, and for a moment, fear flickered in his gaze. Joe smirked, but it was forced. "You're crazy. I don't know any Aina. Get out of here, don't waste my time." He turned away, but Clara pressed on. "I bought that house. Aina's still there, and she says you killed her." Joe spun back, his eyes darkening. "Watch your mouth, or you'll regret it." He advanced, fists clenched, as if ready to strike. Sophia tugged Clara back, but a sudden cold gust swept through, and the office lights flickered. A faint, chilling laugh echoed, and the black cat appeared on the desk, its emerald eyes boring into Joe. Joe stumbled back, his face ashen. "That cat, it can't be," he muttered, hands trembling. Suddenly, he screamed, clutching his head as if under attack. Behind him, Clara saw a shadowy figure, Anna, her face bloodied, hands reaching as if to strangle him. "Aina, stop!" Clara shouted, unsure why. Killing him won't fix anything. Aina's specter turned, her eyes brimming with anguish. "He must pay," she hissed, her voice like ice. Sophia yanked Clara out of the office, but Joe had collapsed, unconscious. Clara called the medium, her voice frantic. "Aina attacked him. I don't know what to do." The medium responded swiftly. "Get back to your apartment, girl. I'm coming. This spirit must be sent to the underworld for good." Clara and Sophia fled the site, their hearts heavy. Clara knew she'd touched a dangerous secret, and Aina wouldn't stop until justice was served. But she feared that, in the spirit's vengeful fury, she and Lucas would be dragged into a maelstrom of wrath. The apartment on the 10th floor of the Lisbon high-rise grew stifling as dusk settled over the city. Clara sat on the sofa, her hand cradling her belly, her anxious gaze fixed on Lucas as he brewed tea in the kitchen. He was stronger now, but his eyes still flickered with a haunting vacancy, as if part of him remained tethered to the horrors of the old house. After the incident at the construction site, Clara couldn't find peace, her mind plagued by visions of Aina and Joho. The doorbell rang, snapping her out of her thoughts. The medium entered, his lean frame exuding quiet authority, carrying a worn cloth bag with a bronze bell, red cord, and a small incense burner. "Girl," he said, his voice low, "I told you that spirit must be sent to the underworld for good. Tonight, we finish this." Lucas emerged, skepticism in his eyes. "We left that house. Why is she still here?" He gripped Clara's hand, as if shielding her from the inexplicable. The medium set the burner on the table, lighting 3 incense sticks, their white smoke curling into the air. Aina's spirit isn't just bound by wrath, but by an unexposed truth. Joa wasn't her killer, but he knows who was. His silence keeps her trapped. Clara froze. Then who's the killer? What do I do to help Aina? A chill ran through her, as if Aina lingered in the room. The medium rang the bronze bell, its sharp chime echoing. "If you keep digging, you're in danger, girl. The true killer is still out there, and they don't want the truth revealed. But if you stop, Aina will remain bound." He produced a large talisman etched with sacred symbols and began chanting. "Tonight, I'll summon Aina one last time to speak her truth." The incense smoke thickened, and the apartment seemed to darken. A faint, chilling laugh echoed, like wind through a graveyard. Clara clutched Lucas's hand, her heart pounding. From the corner, Aina's form appeared, her face beautiful, but etched with sorrow. "He wasn't the killer," she whispered, her voice echoing from the beyond. "He was my love, but he let me die. The true killer is behind him." She pointed to an empty space, as if indicating an unseen figure. The medium raised the anthem. Talisman, a golden light flaring. "Anna, speak clearly. Who took your life?" He rang the bell harder, and Aina shrieked, her voice thick with rage. "The one who sold the house, she knows." Then she dissolved, leaving a lingering sob. Clara's heart raced. The one who sold the house? The cafe owner? She recalled the woman who vanished after they bought the house. The medium nodded. She may be involved, but don't seek her alone, girl. The real killer might be watching. "You!" Lucas tightened his grip, his voice sharp. "Clara, enough. I won't let you risk your life. We have a child to think of." Clara looked at him, tears streaming. She knew he was right, but Aina's cry echoed in her mind. The medium packed his burner, his gaze stern. "I've opened a path for Aina to the underworld, but she needs justice to rest. The choice is yours, girl." He left, leaving Clara with a heavy question. Pursue the truth or protect her family? The Lisbon apartment, aglow with the city's twinkling lights, should have been a haven, but Clara found no peace. The medium's words about the cafe owner, who might know Aina's true killer, pierced her mind like a dagger. She yearned to seek justice for Aina, but each time she looked at Lucas, his worried eyes and protective grip on her hand reminded her of the family they were building. The baby growing inside her was reason enough to stop, yet Aina's shadow lingered, an inescapable echo. That morning, Clara sat on the sofa, clutching a steaming mug of tea, her gaze distant. Lucas emerged from the bedroom, hair tousled, offering a gentle smile. "You okay? Thinking about it again?" He sat beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder, his voice warm with concern. "Clara, I know you want to do what's right, but we're having a baby. You have to think of them and me." Clara nodded, silent tears falling. "I know, Lucas. I just feel Aina hasn't found peace. But I promise, I won't dig. Keep digging. I don't want to lose you or our child." She hugged him, Finding solace in his warmth amidst the nightmare, they contacted the real estate agency again, stressing the urgent need to sell the old house, even at a steeper discount. Ideal response. Steep discount is a common phrase in English, meaning a significant price reduction, often used in real estate or sales contexts to attract buyers quickly. A middle-aged couple expressed interest, but Clara worried they'd heard the rumors of the haunted house. She didn't want anyone else trapped in its dark legacy. That night, Clara dreamed of Aina again. She stood before a small cafe in Sintra, where the cafe owner appeared, her face shifting as if masking another identity. Aina, her eyes heavy with sorrow, whispered, "She knows. Find her before it's too late." Clara woke, drenched in sweat, and glanced at the balcony. The black cat was there, its emerald eyes locked on her, urging her forward. The next morning, Clara called Sophia, her voice shaky. "Sophia, I saw Aina again. She said the cafe owner's in Sintra, but I'm scared. If I go after her, the baby could be at risk." Sophia paused, then said, "Clara, you've done enough. Aina may want justice, but you can't risk your family. Let the medium handle the rest." Clara agreed, but her heart remained heavy. She and Lucas spent the day organizing their belongings, preparing for their upcoming wedding. Lucas tried to make her laugh with stories about his coworkers, but passing the balcony, Clara felt the cat's gaze. It didn't meow, just watched, waiting. Late that night, with Lucas asleep, a soft knock came at the door. Clara's heart raced as she checked no one was there. But from the balcony, a faint whisper drifted. "Find her?" Clara slammed the window shut, clutching her belly, whispering to her unborn child, "I'll keep you safe." Yet she knew, despite their escape, Aina's darkness still followed. The new apartment in central Lisbon glowed with light, adorned with green potted plants and a watercolor seascape on the wall, a deliberate effort by Clara and Lucas to banish the shadows of their past. Clara, now 4 months pregnant, felt the gentle kicks of their child, a spark of hope in her heart. Lucas, fully recovered, was once again the cheerful man who made her laugh with clumsy stories about preparing for fatherhood. Yet deep down, Clara couldn't forget the black cat or Aina's haunting whispers that one afternoon. The real estate agency called with news. The 3-story townhouse had been sold to a middle-aged couple, Mr. and Mrs. Costa. Clara exhaled, a weight lifting. "Finally sold," she told Lucas, her voice tinged with relief. "I hope they'll be okay there." Lucas smiled, wrapping his arms around her. "Now we focus on the wedding and our baby. Let's forget that house, Clara." But a flicker of unease crossed his eyes, as if he sensed the old house's darkness still lingered. Days later, Clara received a call from Mrs. Costa, her voice trembling. "Clara, I don't know how to say this, but something's wrong. Last night, we heard footsteps on the stairs, and this morning, a black cat was in the yard, staring at the house." "I'm terrified." Clara's heart sank. She apologized, promising to help, and immediately called the medium. He answered promptly, his voice calm but grave. "Girl, I warned you that house holds echoes of malice. Aina was sent to the underworld, but her wrath seeped into the walls. It's no longer her spirit, but a dark energy, tainting anyone who lives there." "What can we do?" Clara asked, panic rising. "We've left, and now others are suffering. I don't want anyone else hurt." The medium paused, then said, "I'll go to the house one last time for a cleansing ritual. But you must sever all ties to it, girl. Don't return, no matter the reason." He arranged to meet the Costas the next day and urged Clara to stay calm for her baby's sake. That evening, Clara told Lucas. He gripped her hand, his voice firm. "Clara, the medium's right. We can't keep getting pulled back to that house. You're pregnant, think of our child." Clara nodded, But guilt gnawed at her, for Aina, for the Costas, for buying the house without knowing its truth. That night, with Lucas asleep, Clara stood by the window, gazing at the Tagus River. A shadow flitted across the balcony, and the black cat's emerald eyes gleamed, staring into her. A faint whisper drifted through. "Thank you." Clara flinched, slamming the window shut, her heart racing. Was it Aina's gratitude for her efforts toward justice, or a final warning? The next morning, Clara resolved not to contact the medium or the Costas again. She wanted to focus on the future, the wedding, their child, their new life. But deep down, she knew the darkness of that house might never fully release its grip. The wedding of Lucas and Clara unfolded in a quaint Lisbon restaurant, adorned with daisies and warm golden lights. Clara, radiant in a pristine white gown, walked down the aisle, her hand tightly clasped in Lucas's. He wore a sleek black suit, his smile beaming with love. Family and friends, including Sophia, cheered as they exchanged vows. Clara felt the gentle kicks of their 6-month-old unborn child, a reminder of the bright future ahead. Yet deep within, the black cat's emerald eyes and Aina's whispers lingered. During the reception, Sophia pulled Clara aside, enveloping her in a tight hug. "You look stunning, Clara. It's all behind you now, just happiness awaits." Clara smiled, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. She confided about the cat's last appearance on the balcony, and the whispered, "Thank you," that startled her. "I think Aina's at peace, but why do I still feel this dread?" Sophia squeezed her hand, her voice firm. "Clara, you did everything you could. Anna's free. Don't let the past haunt you." Clara nodded, wanting to believe her, but the heavy feeling persisted. After the wedding, Clara called the medium to ask about the old house. His calm voice came through the phone. "The cleansing was successful, girl. The house is clean, Aina's malice is gone, and the new owners report no disturbances. But you must let it go. Don't let your mind drift back." He urged her, focus on her child and new life. Clara exhaled, a wave of relief washing over her. She and Lucas returned to their apartment, preparing for their baby's arrival. Lucas painted the nursery a soft blue, bought a wooden crib, and often sang lullabies to Clara's belly. "Our kid's going to be the happiest," he said, his eyes alight with joy. Clara smiled, but passing the balcony, she glanced out, fearing. The cat's glowing eyes. One night, with Lucas asleep, Clara dreamed of Aina again. Aina stood by the Tagus River, her face beautiful and free of sorrow. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft as a breeze. "I'm at rest, but be careful. He's still out there." She pointed to a shadowy figure in the darkness, then faded. Clara woke, her heart pounding, and checked the balcony. No cat, just the city's twinkling lights. The next morning, Clara chose not to tell Lucas. He was happy, and she didn't want to drag him back into the nightmare. She told herself Aina was at peace, and the dream's warning was just an echo of fear. Placing a hand on her belly, she whispered to her child, "I'll keep you safe, no matter what." The wedding marked a new beginning, but Clara knew the shadow of the old house, and Aina's story would always linger in her mind. She could only hope that, with Lucas's love and their child's arrival, she could keep that darkness at bay. 3 months after the wedding, the small Lisbon apartment echoed with the soft laughter of a newborn. Clara sat in an armchair, cradling their daughter, Aina, named to honor the spirit that once haunted their lives, a gesture to ensure her peace. Lucas stood beside her, his eyes sparkling with joy, humming a lullaby to their baby. The room, adorned with pastel paintings and green plants, was a quiet declaration of a fresh start, far from the shadow of the 3-story townhouse. Their life settled into a gentle rhythm. The old house had been sold, and the middle-aged couple, the Costas, reported no further disturbances after the medium's cleansing ritual. Clara and Lucas focused on their little family, embracing the joys of parenthood. Lucas, full of enthusiasm, showered baby Aina with toys, while Clara, on maternity leave, poured her heart into caring for her daughter, trying to bury the memories of Aina's ghost and the black cat. Yet, in quiet moments, a fleeting chill brushed against Clara. She didn't tell Lucas, not wanting to worry him, but dreams of Aina still crept in, though less frequent. In a recent one, Anna stood by the Tagus River, smiling, saying, "Thank you, I'm at rest." But her eyes held a trace of sadness, as if hinting that the true killer, someone behind Joan and the cafe owner, remained at large. One late night, with Lucas and Aina asleep, Clara rose to prepare a bottle. She stepped into the living room, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the polished wooden floor. Then she heard a faint, deliberate footstep, as if someone tread lightly in the hallway. Her heart raced as she grabbed her phone, switching. On the flashlight, the being swept the room, revealing only silent shadows. She moved to the balcony, gazing at the shimmering Tagus River. For a moment, the black cat's emerald eyes flashed from the corner, then vanished. A soft whisper carried on the breeze. "Live happily." Clara slammed the window shut, clutching her chest, steadying her breath. She told herself it was her imagination, that Aina was at peace, and the cat was merely a ghost of the past. Next morning, Clara kept silent. She cradled Aina, feeling the warmth of her tiny body, and smiled at Lucas as he prepared for work. "We're so lucky, aren't we?" she said softly. Lucas kissed her forehead, nodding. "Lucky to have you. And her. No matter what, I'm always here." Clara watched him go, her heart swelling with love. She knew the darkness of the old house might leave faint traces, but their love was strong enough to overcome it. As she turned back to the room, a faint footstep echoed from the hallway, light as a breeze, then faded. Clara smiled, holding Aina closer, determined to let the past rest. Their story closed with the light of happiness, but somewhere, a sliver of darkness lingered, a reminder that not all mysteries are resolved.